Right, I think we are live. The show is on. Thank you, Sarah, for confirming that I am indeed live. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thanks for joining today. Nice to see you, Sarah, Kale. Hi, how are you doing? Tid Cooney, good evening to you as well. How is everybody doing today on this fine Saturday? And thank you so much for joining me on your Saturday. Out of interest, what time is it where you guys are? Obviously, Tid Cooney evening. It's 7 p.m. here. I'd be interested to know what time it is where you guys are. Also, I typed a comment in the chat box and now I cannot get that off my screen. And the only thing it's telling me to do is to write a comment. How do I get that off my screen? We're very professional on this channel. I'm good, and you, Becky? Oh, I'm good to hear that you're good. Sarah, I'm very good myself. It's 9 p.m. for Prussian Blue. Nice. Oh, 9 p.m. for Sarah as well. Awesome. It's so hot, it feels like I'm on a New Orleans steamboat. Well, Benjamin reads, as long as there's no vampires on your steamboat, then I think you'll be good. But yes, it is very hot. This room is very stuffy as well. There's basically no circulation. So if I pass out before the end of this live stream, then at least it makes good content. So speaking of books and steamboats, it's the June Book Club live stream where we are discussing Fevre Dream by George R.R. Martin. Obviously, I'm sure that you all are aware, but there will be spoilers, big spoilers in this live stream, so proceed with caution. Leah of the Red Keep, it's 8 p.m. where you are and 26 degrees. I don't know what degrees it is actually in here. Let me just quickly check what degrees it is. 25. So we are very, very close in time and degrees. I'm assuming yours is Celsius and not Fahrenheit. Because if that was 26 degrees Fahrenheit, would that be extremely cold? That would be really cold, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'm trying to work it. Obviously, in the UK, we don't use Fahrenheit. So, first things first, did everybody finish this book? Because I've had it before in some book club live streams where people have joined, but they've not actually read the whole book. And then I've ruined the ending. But, I gave a spoiler warning. So if I ruin the ending for you, it's kind of your fault, not mine. Under zero. So 26 degree Fahrenheit is under 0 degrees. Wow. 32. Oh, wow. 32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing point. Wow, you learn something new every day. Thank you so much, Sarah, for confirming that. Our favourite physicist, George R.R. Martin. Yeah, I was really intrigued to see whether this would feel different to A Song of Ice and Fire, because obviously it's the same author, but a completely different story. And I actually did feel like this felt very, very different. There were times where like George R.R. Martin would put his writing quirks into it, but there were other times where I completely forgot that it was written by him, if I'm being honest, because the story was just so different, in my opinion. So, first things first, what did everybody think to this? I'm also really glad to see that there's quite a lot of people in this. This might actually be the best turnout for a book club that we've had so far, especially when we've only been going live for 3 minutes. That's great. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday with me. I really appreciate that. Tid Cooney found a lot of similarities. Awesome. Would you like to expand further? So is that in terms of like writing style? I did see similarities in writing style and also maybe like the cruelty elements. Like classic George R.R. Martin had cruelty in this book. He did not shy away from the gore. So that was definitely very similar to A Song of Ice and Fire. But otherwise, I found it quite different. Tid Cooney, his descriptions of food. George has loved his grub for decades. That's right. It appears that George also really likes steamboats because the amount of description that he went into regarding steamboats on this book, I never thought I would need to know, but now I know. Benjamin reads, listened to it as my first audiobook. Wow. Felt more immersive with the accents. What is the audiobook like for this then? I didn't even consider picking up the audiobook, but obviously I did my first audiobook a couple months ago now, I think. And some of them are very, very cool. Like, I don't know why I've not been on the audiobook trend before because they're very cool. When we got to paragraph upon paragraph describing a dozen different plates of food, I knew it was a George R.R. Martin book. Yeah, he does like his food. And so does the main character, Abner Marsh. There was a lot of food that he ate in this book. It's an honour, Your Grace. Oh, Sarah, that's so sweet. You're always so lovely. Thank you. I really do appreciate it, honestly. Um, so, what did everybody think to this book then? What are your kind of overall general thoughts and feelings? I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. It was very, very different to what I was expecting. Tid Cooney loved this book. Good. Yeah, it was so different to what I thought. I knew it was going to be good writing. That's the thing. I never once questioned what the writing was going to be like. We've read George R.R. Martin. We know this guy can write. He's a very good writer. But I think it was the plot that I was like the most concerned for before reading this book. But I was very pleasantly surprised. This had me hooked. Tid Cooney has made a very strong statement there, saying one of my favourite novels ever. I think that is so nice to hear. Was this the first time that you read the book, or was this a reread? Because if so, I'm very glad to hear that you've very recently discovered one of your favourite novels ever. I was amazed to learn how young he was when he wrote this. How old was he? Oh yeah, Prussian Blue. How old was he? Early 30s? First time, early 30s. Wow. Okay. Well, I did not know that. I mean, I knew it was like released in the 1980s, but I just didn't do my maths. Actually, yeah, he's got to be young because he's old now, isn't he? So yeah, and this is an old book. Wow. Benjamin Reed says, very atmospheric. George did a good job of pulling you into the New Orleans setting. Yes, and for somebody who has never been to New Orleans, I think he did a brilliant job of setting the scene for me and like creating that visual in my head when I don't have anything to base it off of because I've never been. Um, the Omnipresent Fog made a good backdrop for a vampire story. Yeah, there was eerie, creepy vibes consistently throughout this book. And if you're going to write a novel about vampires, you need it to be creepy. There's no calming story about vampires, or there shouldn't be. Rushy, sorry I'm late. That's okay. Thank you for tuning in. You're only 7 minutes. I'll let you off. Steve says hi. Hi, Steve. Hope you are good. I know you're good because I saw you about an hour ago. So hope you are still good. Tid Cooney says published at 32, I think. 32. That is actually insane for how good this is. And actually, if I'm correct, feel free to let me know if I'm not correct. He published this before A Song of Ice and Fire, didn't he? So A Song of Ice and Fire didn't exist when he wrote this. Is that right? I mean, I'm sure he might have been like working on it because sometimes obviously they take a long time to create before they actually get published. But I'm so sure that this was released before A Song of Ice and Fire was. Sarah says, you really do feel the emotions, the atmosphere of the places, the smells even. Every time he speaks of the suffocating heat, I would imagine it. You are so, so right. I completely agree with you. And that is, again, another reason why he is such a brilliant author, because it almost feels like you are there. Like when there were parts on the steamboat, obviously the Fevre Dream, when it was just so creepy and you just knew that something was going to go down. It's almost like you feel that tension in the build up to it. You can feel like creeped out. And I love to feel creeped out. Is that a weird statement? I mean, if George R.R. Martin is making me feel creeped out, that's fine. It's justified. He deserves to. A Song of Ice and Fire was around 96. So this was about 14 years earlier. Wow, I need to do my research on these books before I choose them for the book club. I mean, I don't choose them, but before I put them in the poll for the book club, because I had no idea that it was released so early, like so much earlier than A Song of Ice and Fire. His world building is so deft. The river became the whole world with all of its features. That's a very good point, and that leads me on to another point that I was going to say today, was actually that basically I would say like 85% of this book, maybe even 90% of it, is based on a boat, which upon initial like thoughts, I assumed that would mean the book would be boring, because how much can you really write about a boat? Turns out a lot. and it wasn't boring. Like it really wasn't. I was expecting that it would be. I learned a lot about how a steamboat works, but it wasn't boring. It was stuff that I was just taking on in, and it was so important to the plot as well. So yeah, I really, really was pleasantly surprised by how this book exceeded my expectations. Maybe I was just being judgy before reading it, but it was honestly incredible. I would definitely reread this in the future. Um, I really did enjoy it. Uh, Usually, as a river is just part of a story or fantasy world, but here it was almost everything. Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. In the other 10%, he always mentions that the river is in view. Yeah, so basically, for 100% of the book, there is always at least a theme of the river. If you're not on the boat on the river, then it's always in view. It is always there. Even I'm so bad with names. What was his name? Julian D something. Oh, why am I so bad with names? Yeah, even his plantation was like near the. It's a Julian Damon. But yeah, even his plantation was near the river. So there was always that river vibe. Damon Julian. Thank you. So I got it the wrong way around. I honestly, I'm the type of person who reads a character's name and then forgets it 5 seconds later. I don't know why that always happens. Joshua York's introduction was great. I do completely agree with you, Benjamin Reads. The description of his eyes, revealing a cold intelligence with a dark primal beast being held back. Oh, it gives me chills just thinking about the descriptions in this book. But yeah, I actually thought that maybe Joshua York might have been one of my favourite characters. Um, yeah, some of his motives were a little bit questionable. I mean, he knew that obviously Damon Julian was the bad guy, but he was still doing everything he could for vampires. So for his species, even when he knew that the bloodmaster of his species was a very sus guy, he was still always backing up his species, which for a human, that might have felt a little bit like, why are you doing that? Please, like, come on, root for us. But actually, he was obviously going to put his species first. So I kind of get his motives, even if some of his decisions were a little bit questionable. But I think he was one of my favorite characters. That was a very long-winded way of saying he was my favorite character. Sarah says, I did enjoy the American Southern accent. I would read those passages in that accent. For the rest in my polished British accent. That's funny. Mind that English is your third language? That is incredible. What other languages do you speak, if you don't mind me asking you that? Hello, Akshat Kashyap. Sorry if I've butchered that pronunciation. Nice to see you here. Hope that you're okay. All this talk about books is making me want to read something. Oh, honestly, I come away from these live streams wanting to read. Oh, there's just something so therapeutic about it. Even if you're reading about vampires eating the human race, there's just something really satisfying about it in a really weird way. Benjamin Reed says Joshua had great intentions. That's it. He was just too naive when it came to Damon. Yeah, he was. And I was rooting for Joshua to come out on top. And I suppose, like, in the end, he did. But it took a long way to get there. He clearly knew that he was outmatched when it came to Damon Julian. He clearly knew that although Joshua was a really strong guy, really admirable, inspirational bloodmaster, he knew that Damon Julian was just that bit stronger, had the upper hand, was kind of out of his league. Prussian Blue said, first I've heard about that book, I thought the American South is the worst place for this genre. Turns out it wasn't. Yeah. I feel like I've learned a lot actually about a location that I haven't really read much about before. I suppose because I normally read like fantasy books that are not set on Earth. Like they have this made up place. So therefore, like real locations don't exist. But in this book, the locations were real. So maybe there are vampires there. Who knows? Where's your proof that they aren't? Where's anybody's proof for anything? The South is perfect for it. Yes. Great Gothic history. And do you know what? I would love to read another book that has great Gothic history because, yeah, I feel like I've got a feel for it since reading this book. And it's really, really cool. There's a place in Edinburgh actually that has this like really big Gothic spire. It's like this random tower in like the middle of the city. If you've been to Edinburgh, hopefully you'll know what I mean. But it just looks so Gothic and cool. And every time I go past it, it like makes me want to write a book about it. I can't write, I don't have the talent. But the one by the park, yes, it is near the park. Because the first time that I saw it, they had the Christmas markets just next to it, and then I went back a different time. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool looking. Um, the way he describes the way Damon Julian proves speaks and interacts with others is so cinematographic. I'm so bad at pronouncing big words. On the spot, you could even cringe in his presence, bloody Julian. Yeah. Oh, is if this was made into a movie and they did it correct, how epic would that be? I say correct because you've got to do it right. Um, oh, moves. I should have auto corrected that in my mind anyway. It's so obvious what you meant. It's late. It's, almost my bedtime. My brain's starting to shut down for the evening. My first language is Arabic. Cool. I speak fluently French, English, and a bit of German. Wow, you're making me feel very, very jealous. I would love to be bilingual, multilingual. Um, I did try and learn a bit of Italian, but I only started learning it in May, so I'm not very good so far. Ask me again in a year, and I might be able to be somewhat conversational. Um, awesome. What other questions was I going to ask? Oh, I've mentioned about my favorite character. Who are your guys' favorite characters? Hit me up. Let me know. I did quite like Abner Marsh. Obviously, he's like our main guy, our main POV. That is Tid Cooney's favorite character, Abner Marsh. He was likable, and do you know what? There was something so wholesome about him just wanting to beat the Eclipse boat. It's basically like all he wanted was to beat that boat and to have the fastest steamboat. And I just think it's so cute when like little old men have these really wholesome aspirations. Did that sound condescending? They don't have to be old. But yeah, I just thought it was really wholesome, really cute that that was basically all that he wanted, all that he cared about. Audiobook is the best teacher for pronunciation and practice. Thank you for that because I will take that on board. Thank you. That's really helpful, Sarah. Tid Cooney, I felt he was a GRM character, ugly but lovable. Yeah, he is. He was lovable. That was it. Yeah, he's the way that George R. R. Martin described him was pretty ugly, warts and all. But this is a safe space for Abner Marsh. We will accept him no matter what. And he was lovable. He was cute. There were things that he would say and decisions he would make that were just cute AF. He's just sweet. Both Marsh and York were fantastic. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Benjamin. I do wonder if George wrote Marsh as a standalone in for himself. I wonder if anybody's ever actually like asked George R. R. Martin about his inspirations for this book. I might have to do a bit of research on that and see. I mean, it did come out 14 years before A Song of Ice and Fire, so people definitely had time to ask him about it. But then I feel like everything has now been overshadowed by A Song of Ice and Fire. So some of his old works and his old projects, people probably don't ask him about that stuff anymore. So that's probably why he's so bitter these days. I mean, he did write a very interesting blog post, was it last month, where he said that nobody cares about anything else that he does. And although it was very passive aggressive, my heart went out to him a little bit because I thought, yeah, he's probably kind of over A Song of Ice and Fire. Like maybe he wants somebody to talk to him about Fever Dream, but nobody ever will. We would, wouldn't we? If he would listen to the 15 of us, if he cared enough, then I'm sure that he'd let us talk to him about it. He was fair. Yeah, he was. He tends to make some characters extremely ugly. He does, doesn't he, actually? When you think about it, there's a lot of ugly characters in the realm of George R. R. Martin. I wonder if that's a metaphor for something. Ugly on the outside, but beautiful personalities. Not everything has to be surface value. Don't judge a person by their cover. Yeah, I felt that. He is now George R. R. Martin, the author of A Song of Ice and Fire, so you can't separate that from stuff he did earlier. Yeah, He is so over A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, I feel that the past few months and maybe even years, to be fair, I do genuinely feel like he's over it. I mean, I'm sure he appreciates the money it's made him, but it's clear that he has other passions, other projects, but just nobody's got the time of day for it. Nobody cares about that stuff. All they want to talk about is Winds of Winter. So I can kind of see his frustration. I mean, it's not our fault that we care about Winds of Winter, and to have so many people care about something that you've created must give you a big ego boost. Like, imagine creating something like that, and people are so desperate for the next installment because they love it so much. Like, it must be a great feeling. But on the other side of that, he just probably doesn't care about it as much as everybody else does. Hot takes. Best quote, "It's got to end even if it has to be with fire and blood." Yes, that line stuck with him for a while. I did read that and I thought, oh, he knows what he's doing. Yeah, that was one of those ones that gives you chills. Hi, Smilesy. Let me know if I pronounced that wrong, but hi, nice to see you here. Hope you're having a good Saturday. Let me know how you are. Hope you're good. He recently published a physics paper, did he? But again, like, people just don't care enough about that stuff. I I am so, like, happy that he's got the money to just be able to do his other projects, that he doesn't have to care about Winds of Winter. He's not doing it for money because he's made his money. So now he's kind of like, I can do whatever I want. I can focus on the projects that I want, and it's not going to lose me any money because I don't have to make that money, if that kind of makes sense. I've basically just accepted that Winds of Winter is never coming out. Sorry, guys. I don't want to diminish anybody's hope, but I would be quite happy for him to make another vampire book based on this. Sarah says, "It just crossed my mind that the way Abner cared for Joshua is a bit fatherly kindness." Yeah, I absolutely agree. Since Abner is supposedly older, he's not only considered him as a partner, but the son he never had. That's such a great point, and I picked up on the same. There was like this love and compassion that he had for Joshua York. Like, even when he found out that he was a vampire, he was still caring for him, and even after he learned that Joshua was reluctant to kill Damon Julian, he still rooted for him in a way and still cared for him. Smalsy said, "I'm okay. I was considering reading Fever Dream soon, so clicked here." Awesome. Just to let you know, there may potentially be spoilers in this live stream. So far, we haven't actually spoiled anything in the 22 minutes that we've been live for. I think we've just talked about our favourite characters, haven't we? And the settings and descriptions. But just to warn you that there may potentially be spoilers. But I mean, what I will say is that if you are considering reading this book soon, I would highly recommend that you do, because I think we can all agree this is a great book. This is brilliantly written. The plot was fantastic. The characters are great. So, yeah, I think we can all agree. We would recommend you read this book. Yeah, Tid Cooney 100% recommends. Same. I'm surprised Fever Dream has never been adapted. It would make a great film/limited series. Yeah, I completely agree. Like, imagine the stuff that you could do with this. You could just make it so cool, so creepy, like, not horror. Yeah, maybe horror. There were some scenes in this that could definitely be horror. Yeah, it would just be so cool. Like, imagine the setting on a steamboat with the fog, and there was like that grand room with all the marble and the mirrors. How cool would that look? Yes, I saw current Russell Crowe as Abner. Yes, I can picture that as well, actually. When I'm reading books, it's weird. I don't see like real people that I've seen before playing the characters. It's almost like my brain makes up a new person every time. Like, who I envisaged for Abner Marsh was someone I've never ever thought about in my life. Like, my brain's just made up this entire person. I mean, it must be based on a face I've seen before, because they say that you can't visualize things that you haven't actually seen. So say if you visualize like a monster or something, it's based on things you've seen before, like a combination of them. So I must have seen a guy look like Abner Marsh with warts and stuff before. Oh, is my brain even saying right now? Maybe Tom Hills. Yes, Tom Hiddleston as York. Yes. Hiddleston. Yes, I can picture that as well. Okay, I just checked. It's free on Spotify, so I'll probably listen to the audiobook soon. That's great. I think it was it Benjamin earlier who said that the audiobook was really good? Let me scroll up. Someone said the audiobook was really good, and I feel like it was Benjamin. It was, yes. Listen to it as that first audiobook said it was really immersive. Yeah, so if you want to listen to the audiobook for it, it's free on Spotify, then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Benjamin would recommend it. Um, and actually, if I wanted to reread reread the book, but didn't have that much time, I would probably pick up the audiobook version for it instead. Yeah, Benjamin says the audiobook is on the Libby app too. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think to be fair, that's probably going to be my way of rereading books now is by listening to the audio book version because I don't have a whole lot of time. And if I do, I want to read a new book. But an audiobook seems to give me more time because I can do other things. Like I can do it when doing the chores and the cleaning, going for walks, all that stuff. So audiobooks are revolutionary. Russell as Abner. No, please. Sarah, who do you think should play Abner instead then, if you don't think Russell Crowe should? After reading The Fever Dream, I felt like I should be doing something related to steamships. Yeah, I feel like we've all learned how to pilot a steamship. There, I mean, he went in on the details. He really teaches you the layout and how to pilot and steer a steamship and how to make it go fast. Yeah, there was a whole chapter based on the zoom zooms and making it go fast. Why does something in my office sound like it's overheating? There's like a fan noise coming from something, but I haven't got anything on that should be making that noise. Oh, that's really hot. Oh no, the room might be really warm. Okay, if I disappear, then I think my computer might have overheated. Just to let you know, in case I stand you guys up, it's not me. Matthew Whitfield, Becky, Matthew, hope you're well. How you doing? Thanks for joining on this Saturday. I listen to audiobooks a lot at work. I can easily listen to like 5 hours of an audiobook a day at work. That's incredible. And to be honest, I feel like I would read so much more if I was listening to audiobooks because yeah, I would actually have time to get probably like at least 2 hours a day of audiobooks in whilst I'm doing other things, but I just don't. Um, maybe I should. If you've got any good audiobook recommendations, hit me up. Let me know because I'm very picky. Sid Cooney says it was a very educational novel. It was, and I also thought it was very educational about vampires. Listening to the whole thing about like the red first and how that impacts them, like a hunger. Yeah, I feel like it's how I feel when I wake up every morning and I'm hungry for coffee. Like they've got the red first, I've got the brown first for coffee. Anybody else relate? I agree with Tom's choice. Call his agent at once. We have work to do. Tom Hiddleston is probably a very busy man. If we tried calling him, he probably would put us onto voicemail. I don't think he'd pick up. But we'll let him know. I think if we all chip in and invest, we can make this into a great movie. All of the different types of jobs, strikers, mud clerks, yeah, and there was that chef guy as well. He was really cool. Yeah, all the different types of like cabin crew, the different types of jobs that will work on a steamboat. And actually, that part towards the end, again, I won't spoil too much for Smilesy, but when the whole kind of like popularity of the steamboats starts to reduce and you see it through Abner Marsh's eyes and he's talking about how all the crew and the cabin have changed slightly, so he's seeing like the transition over time between the steamboats. It was quite emotional. Maybe you should check your CPU usage. Some app might be overusing it. Oh, that's a good point. Can I do that by typing in on the internet? Is there a thing that says CPU? Oh yeah, here we go. Let's see if that does anything. We'll have a look. Is it the computer? I mean, it does feel kind of hot. Oh yeah, something is definitely making a fan noise and it really shouldn't be. I'm sorry if you can hear that as well, because these microphones pick up like any background noise. I do want to get a better microphone that's just my voice. Maybe I should open the window to air out the room or the door. Okay, in a moment I might try and ventilate the room out. It's very hot in here. I don't know if you can tell, but my hair is sticking to my forehead because of all the sweat. We keep it real on this channel. Benjamin Reese says, I read a lot of grimdark fantasy. Oh, you are so right. I don't know if I can say that phrase without getting banned, but I completely agree. That was the most difficult part of the book. That was the chapter that made me, like, pause afterwards because I was like, "That's made me feel really uncomfortable." Um, at least it served a purpose plot-wise and wasn't just for shock value. Yeah, absolutely. But it was very, very uncomfortable. Um, Probably one of the most uncomfortable actually in all of George R. R. Martin's writing. I feel like in A Song of Ice and Fire, like, there was some scenes that were like, "Ooh, gross," but there's only been, like, a couple out of the whole, like, 5 books, or is it 6 books? 5, I think. How many's behind me? 1, 2, 3, 5. There's only been, like, 2 scenes where I've felt like I had to pause afterwards and process it. One of them was obviously the red wedding, and the other one was Reek eating a live rat. Um, that those were the 2 I thought that's, like, actually hurt me to my core. That's really hard for me to get through. But yes, that particular scene with the child really, made me stop a little bit after that. Feels like I'm reading a biology book about vampires. Yeah, but in a great way, like a really tense, cool, action-packed way. I'm a gardener, so I have headphones in most of the time. Oh, that sounds like such a nice job. I hope I'm not romanticizing it, but in my head, I picture that that's like a really nice job. Crikey, I had to walk away from it for a while after that, sick to my core. Yeah, same. I remember reading it in my living room, and like afterwards, I just kind of closed the book and was like quiet for a little bit. I was like, I need to like put a light-hearted TV show on for 20 minutes, like Friends, because I feel like distraught right now. So I had to try and pick myself up again. Upon reflection, it was like so, so important to the scene, but to the whole storyline, but it was so, so depressing. I'm going to try and ventilate this room out because I think I've mind tricked myself into thinking that the computer's going to explode. So I'm going to just open a window and the door. Talk amongst yourselves for like 2 minutes.